Welcome to Inside the Walls with William Pasquale, brought to you by Perna Frederick Commercial Real Estate. Welcome to a new level of commercial real estate built upon relationships and proven results. Good afternoon and welcome to Inside the Walls with William Pasquale. And today we'll be talking about how to turn companies from suffering to thriving in this environment. And we have the expert on to talk about that. We'll be speaking today with Jason Sisneros, chairman at Anton J Global. Jason's a true entrepreneur. He's also a speaker, philanthropist, and a mentor. Jason is also a powerful influencer and thought leader who has used his success and influence to feed millions around the world, fight for abused women, and rescue underage sex slaves. Through the art of leadership and the science of strategy, he has become the architect, building structurally sound action and outcome-driven businesses for himself and his clients. And here's a quick video about Jason. And here is Jason.
Great video.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, and thank you for being on, Jason. I'm about to say it is an excellent video. And why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and about the Anton J Global organization?
Sure. It's one of the hardest questions to answer because, the last thing that I like to talk about is myself. But for your listeners and people that are watching this, I like the idea of seeing yourself in someone else's journey so that you can kind of connect with the things that person happens to say. But mine, I started pretty young. My adopted father was sort of a bad guy. Went to prison for attempted murder of me and my mom when I was 17. I did what I knew. I got into the gang lifestyle and collector and drugs and all that kind of fun stuff. And had some great mentors in my life that stepped in and helped me turn that all the way around. And went through some ups and downs in business, bankrupt a couple of times, went through a divorce. I pretty much made sure that I made all the mistakes, William,
Yep.
to make sure that I got them out of the way. But
always a good thing to do.
Always a good thing to do. Get them behind you as fast as possible. So, but then, again, with mentors and people, Tony Robbins, who you and I have in common, being able to step into my life and see something about me and see something in me that they wanted to mold and could mold to take to the next level. Since then, I've built multiple companies, built a very successful consulting company. My passion and the thing that I get most jazzed up about is philanthropy. Being able to go in and grab little girls, underage girls or boys that have been abducted and are being used in a horrific way in the human sex trafficking rings, feeding people and domestic violence. And I figured out along the way that knowing something about business, I could connect philanthropy with business so they could support each other, work off of each other. And that's what I spend my time now doing almost every single day. So it's a good life.
I'd say it's a very good life. But say I know, some of those, organizations like Feed a Billion and the Underground Railroad and just all the different, it's just such a major impact in the world, what you're doing, with your philanthropic time. let alone the businesses that you're impacting through Anton J. And, to kind of feed off that, clearly these are rare economic times.
Mm-hmm.
We both know people that are hurting in their business. We also know people that are thriving right now. What are some of the key differentiators outside of just the industry segments? But what are some of the key differentiators with companies at their core from the two of thriving versus just surviving from what you see in the people you work with?
So I think that for most people, the people that are thriving are people that have systems and processes in place that allow for maximum flexibility, right? But the only example I can give of that is like Michael Jackson and how he used to dance, right? He was one of the greatest dancers in the world, but people don't understand he was a technician. He got the process and the procedure from whoever the choreographers, and he put it together, and then he practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced so that when one of those moments would come up that he could go, woohoo, right, and step right back in, and all the other dancers are going, that wasn't in the moves, right?
Right.
But his processes and his procedures were they were so dialed in that he could flex, he could pivot in such a way. And that's the major difference that I see in business, is that a lot of people don't have processes and procedures in place. They're there making sales and marketing and doing that kind of thing, but they don't have that back end to support if something comes at them. Several of the companies that are my clients, we pivoted all the way from selling used cars in one of the businesses over to plexiglass, and that gentleman is doing extraordinarily well right now.
That's a heck of a turnaround on all segments. Yeah.
Right. And secondarily, I think it's the ones that were prepared for COVID. Right. And people were like, how the hell do you prepare for COVID?
Right.
Call it anything, call it 2008, 2009, call it 9/11, call it whatever it is. There's always going to be something like that pops up. And so a lot of the things that we do when we go in and help an organization is to look at, okay, let's get you to a place, and we'll get to this as we get to the end, but know your outcome. Number one, what are you here working for? What are you striving for in the first place? And part of that, regardless, is going to take making sure that you are personally taken care of financially, make sure your business has cash flow that's there for a slowdown or a stop or a pivot or something of that nature. And then you're able to move on. So being prepared for a COVID or a 9/11 or a 2008, 2009 scenario those are the two biggest things: being prepared, and then having your operations and your processes and your procedures so dialed in that you can pivot on a dime.
That's a great philosophy. Now, something that you and I had talked about beforehand, it's new to our show, is that we're actually going to use some slides. and we'll see if this works as advertised. Thank you, StreamYard, because I utilize this wonderful streaming service. So let's see if it works as advertised.
There you go.
So let's see here. And let's see, that's only me. There we are. There we go. So why don't you kind of walk us through a little bit of what this slide kind of described in that context.
Sure. And by the way, it's the first time I've ever used slides. Anybody that's ever seen me speak around the country never sees a slideshow behind me. But what I will tell you is that we're getting very, very serious. Look, in 2019, the difference between 2019 and 2020, we've seen over 1 million more companies start. Last year, 2.6. This year already somewhere around 3.6. So you've seen about a surge, which I predicted back as this thing was going on. I said, look, having a small business is going to be the place to be right now. And I got a lot of pushback on that, but you'll love my "I told you so" reel when I get done with 2020. It's been spot on, right? So, right. And one of the things that we're doing is we're looking at the middle class as a whole, right? I'm working on really two things. I want to help rebuild the middle class through small to mid-sized companies, and then we have the Slave-Free Project, which is the combination of good people, which is our motto, right? We want to help good people make more money, get more time so they can do more good. That's how we connect the two. I'm really great at business. I'm really passionate about serving and easing suffering in the world. So that's where we're connecting. And so that brought about me thinking about these things and what I've done to buy companies, turn them around for myself, and then also for hundreds of clients through Anton J over the years. And it breaks down this way. When you're looking at this triangle, most people are engaged in sales and marketing. And what happens when sales slow down, right? What happens? You're out of business. SBA, even all the way up to 2019, said that 50% of all small businesses fail in the first year. 50%, right?
Yeah.
So think about that. We have 3.6 million. That means 1.7 something million businesses will be gone by this time next year, right? Of all of them. And then in 5 years, 95% of those are gone. So you can do the math, right? If it's 4 million, there's going to be like whatever the number is, 200,000 people that are left, 200,000 businesses. So because most people never get out of that base level of sales and marketing, they're doing their best to keep selling, and then getting to marketing. Marketing is the next point. It's like that's when you hit that first peak and your sales start to slow down. Everybody goes, oh, we need marketing. So you hire all of the 100% valid marketing companies out there that do everything that they say they're going to do. Sarcasm, right?
Hint, hint.
Dripping off of my lips. So then marketing, and then you go up again, and then you start to come back down. Really, on that way down, unless you understand that you've got to have operations, right? Which means that you have to have systemized ways to deliver on the promise that sales and marketing had, then you're dead in the water. You're just going to keep looking for people that don't know how bad you suck, and instead of getting these things called referrals. Once you get operations in place, now you start to be able to duplicate your service, right? And when that starts happening, the next challenge is for you to be able to modify your business is to be financially literate, right? To know what are your numbers telling you as they come in. And a lot of us in business, we step in, numbers are a foreign language. It's like we in America get dropped in the middle of China and we have to communicate. And we don't. So what we do is we avoid, right? Most business owners spend as much time as they can in their competence where they feel good, and as much time pushing away their incompetence. And so it's the exact opposite for successful businesses. You have to spend as much time as you can in your incompetence so that you can get a base understanding and hire it out, get technology that fixes it, whatever the solution is. But spending more time in your incompetence gets you to a better place. And finance is always a good place. Of all the companies, all the countries, all around the world that I've been, this is one of the places that is hurting the most, right? And that still doesn't get you to that next level, which is culture and training, right? You go, okay, I got my numbers, I got my operations in place, my sales and marketing. My next level for me is sustainability. I want to go from month to month planning to I want to go to 6 month, a year, 5-year planning. And the only way that can happen is you identify your culture on purpose instead of by accident, which is 95% of the companies that we see, their culture is not defined. Training, which means that you're duplicating those things that your customers most love and that are gaining you those referrals. And then your step above that is scale. And William, you know this because you've been around business long enough. The most overused word in business. We're going to scale our company. What it means for most people, the uneducated or somebody that hasn't learned what scale is we're going to sell more. Right? That's how we're going to grow our business. We're going to sell more. Scaling is not anywhere near. You see, it's at the top of the pyramid, not the bottom. It's as far away from the bottom as you can possibly get. So scaling means that you put together in proper sequence all of these action items in a way that tie together interconnectedly. And you get to the top of that and you realize my business has to have a battle rhythm to it. And that battle rhythm has to have leaders, and it has to have meetings, and it has to have, all of these pieces that tie it together so that it has its own momentum and you're not needed to be there to run it, right? So scale is the most misunderstood, therefore the least hit objective of any business.
Wow, that's just just an incredible amount of information that I'm sure everybody can relate to and get and understand as business owners. Now, on your website, I also saw a video on the concept of like a ridiculous optimism, which I loved from a business ownership standpoint. What are the top? But it also talked about having the right foundations for a business, and you kind of were talking about that a little bit. that companies really need to look at to improve their business exponentially? What do companies really need to dial into?
Mm-hmm. So what you're talking about, like if you think of it everybody's seen the crazy hot matrix, right? So you've got an A and a B, and our matrix in business is a mixture of arrogance and ignorance, right? Arrogance and ignorance.
Okay.
When you're talking about ridiculous optimism, you have to, like, it's not even a bad thing. Everybody goes, oh, he's just calling me arrogant and ignorant. We all have to be. Why? Because we're going to start something that 50% of people fail in the first year, and 95% are out in the first 5 years. Like, we're going to start that and think we're going to do something different. So that ridiculous optimism is needed in the beginning. But if you can if you play arrogance out, you end up with competence, right? And confidence. Confidence means that you now know your skill sets. If you play ignorance out far enough, you become educated. And so the further you move out on that matrix is to know the fundamentals of understanding. Yes, I do have to have sales and I do have to have marketing to get this thing called traction. It's the fundamental piece. But while I'm doing that, if I can flash back to this thing with Jason, he said, operations. If I have an operational plan of how to deliver on the promise while I'm making these sales, what is the purpose of sales and marketing? It's to survive. And that's all you're ever going to do unless you get to that next level, which is to get referrals. Referrals brings down your acquisition price of your customers. It makes your business more sustainable. It leads to all of the upper parts of that triangle because your systems are built in such a way that guarantee and are focused on customer delight and employee satisfaction. Now that, and so that operational piece, so these are the fundamentals. And then getting to know your numbers, having somebody that an outsourced person, like when you go to China, the best thing for you to do is to have a translator. Right. So find somebody that understands finance and help you speak the language so that you understand when you're looking at your P&L, you don't go straight down to the profit margin, which is a myth and a anyway. Right.
You can't win the game if you don't know the score.
You can't win there you go. Keith Cunningham 101, baby. Right. So, yes. Yeah. And so that's a big piece of it, is knowing what fundamentals that you need to study. And unfortunately, business is like having a baby. There's no instruction manual. Right. Right. I mean, you can go to business school. And you can learn some things about business. But like Mike Tyson says, everybody has a plan till you get punched in the face. And all business is getting punched in the face all day long, every day. Like, you have to be sort of a masochist to be in business in the first place.
No, but I'd say, I mean, out of all the companies that you're currently working with, I mean, I know you're actually working with a close friend of mine as well. But of all the companies, which ones are finding the way to really kind of I mean, companies have had to have, lay off people right now or let people go. Some people have, just had to, not necessarily gotten rid of the employees, but literally had to shut down their offices. Obviously, I have a commercial real estate background. So, I know, like in Philadelphia, a lot of people are still working out of their homes, and the people aren't coming back until January, maybe more like June, right. Hopefully. And, that has a major impact. So, I mean, as you're looking at all these different types of companies that you're dialed into, what do you see as working on keeping that employee, that employee momentum? The last show I did, or not the last show, the show before that, I had Steve Perna, who runs our organization. Mm-hmm. And we were talking about how he's been managing a bunch of type A personalities, and that whole structure on leadership in a time like this, because that's when, leaders need to lead. And, how have you seen, people being leaders stepping up and leading to keep that employee base happy, to keep them confident, and to keep them moving in the right direction?
It's a great question. And you have to understand the fundamental heart of what Anton J focuses on has always been around the employee, because I didn't start out as a business owner, right? I started out as an employee. I think a lot of people do. Right. And I saw sort of that old school, like if you think about Moneyball for Business, right? They shifted their dynamics of how they looked at the very game, right? One of my favorite baseball players is Mickey Mantle. Mickey Mantle was one of the most philosophical, smart, math-oriented baseball players in the entire game, still to this day. And he said at the end of his career, which was very long, very illustrious, broke all kinds of records and that still stand today. And he said, it's amazing to me what I don't know about the game that I played my entire life, right? It's amazing how much people don't know about business, that this game that they're playing over and over and over again. So one of the key fundamental places for you to start, it has to erase things to get to this point, which means that I am going to set my business up to deliver on the outcomes of my employees. Now, in order to know the outcomes of my employees, I have to ask them, what are their outcomes, right? What do you want out of life? Because what I want out of life, the problem is we hire a whole bunch of people thinking that they're us when we're, a small percentage of the world, there are idiots that want to start a business, right? Everybody else works for us idiots. And so that employee doesn't want the big house or the jet or the cars or whatever it is. They may simply just want to buy their first new home. They may just want to put a kid through college. They may want to go to the finals of the NBA finals, right? Whatever it is, there's such a small amount of people out there that ever ask that question. And the answers that we get, pretty much the reason is when we ask that question, oh, I heard it on a podcast, I should ask my people what they want. What's going to get back to you is just say, look, I want to have a good time. I love this company. I love you. And it's all the surface stuff and surface answers that they're giving you. You got to dig past that. No, why are you actually working here, right? What is it that you actually want to accomplish with your life so that I can now design my business and your position around that outcome? Right. And that starts to tie together this thing called gamification. I built an algorithm about 9 years ago on how to gamify business. In other words, how to get that same dopamine hit that you get with Angry Birds that grew into a $6 billion company. Right.
I don't want to talk about how much time I actually spent playing that game.
Yeah,
I didn't spend any time.
It was I know, but the fascinating thing was I was playing it literally like sitting, where you normally sit when you're playing, Angry Birds. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I doing this? And then that got me to dig in and say, I look into the company called Rovio who owns it. And
Great company.
Like, $6 billion.
Great company.
And that took me down this other rabbit hole called gamification. And how people get addicted to things and it's small dopamine hits. And then I'm thinking to myself, what if everybody that was working with me could get dopamine hits while they're at work? Like, what if we gamified? Everybody wants to win. In my opinion, everybody wants to win. And the person that's whining about their employees the most is the person who is doing the worst job at being a leader. Right. And I hate to say that, but business owners need to either hear what they need to hear, and they can get upset if they want. I don't care. I don't need your business, but this is the point. You need to know the truth if you're going to address it. Right. So I got fascinated by that. That drove me down a hole, William, that led me to going to work with Oracle and trying to figure out, not with Oracle, hiring Oracle. I went up in their stunt plane and all this other kind of stuff. That's how embedded and dug in we were to figure out, how can I gamify every business that I own, right? 6,500 employees. What could I do for them to love coming to work? And how could I take what they're doing and add in the math of my P&L and connect it to the outcome of their business and have the tip of the triangle be what they want out of their life and help them get it. Now you're taking a pro look at your business and you're getting involved in the things that need to happen. Problem is everybody's playing the same damn game that is old, it's tired, it's dusty, it doesn't have application. You have millennials now, you have a different environment with technology. You have to adjust to that. And in order to adjust to that, you got to start. So there's not a simple answer to your question. It takes a fundamental shift of the business owner to understand gamifying your business takes that triangle that I built, right? Or that I was showing you there. Yeah. A step above it is gamification, and a step above that is what most business owners are really.
Let me see here. Let's say, as I know, I've got more slides here. I'm just trying to figure out how to get to the next slide. There we go.
Look here. This is a great one to stay on, right? This one is a great one to stay on this is above, right? So when you learn all those things and then you gamify your business, you can't gamify your company until you have all of those prior lower levels dialed in. It takes time. It takes education. It takes discipline. It takes keeping your eye on the prize. And across from that, you see mastery, right? That's what most people are trying to seek, is mastery in their own business. The step above that is chairperson. And that's where I will always be for the rest of my life. Chairperson, I don't have to show up at any of my businesses. I don't have to run any of them. I know my game so well that I can look at the algorithm as it flows up to me and know which dials to pull. Now, that word next to chairperson is called freedom. And that is the most, if I could tell, if anybody gets anything out of this show with us today, it's that is what you are seeking. Okay? And if you don't know what you're seeking, you can never build yourself a stairway to it. And what I have found over the years that I've been in business and all of the stuff, the people that I've worked with, is that they're seeking this thing called freedom, and they don't even know that, right? I want more employees. I did this early in my career. I want more employees. I want a lot of money. Why? Connect it. I went bankrupt. I got, basically lost my mind, got depressed, got a divorce, all this other kind of stuff. When I started thinking about it, I sat down and I went, you know what? What I'm really seeking is freedom. Now, what does freedom mean to me? And there's different levels of that, right? There's really three. There you've got an entrepreneurial bent that you want to change the world when you're free. You've got a lifestyle thing. You want to go out and retire on an island or a yacht or in your yard with your garden, whatever it is. And then thirdly is you want to do more ventures. And then there's all kinds of combinations. I'm sort of like in the middle of all that. I love philanthropy. I love business. And I sure as hell love my free time.
Right.
So if anybody got anything out of this show today, it's to understand that the game you're playing is to create freedom for you. And you need to sit down and define, what does freedom mean to me? What does it mean to me? So that you can build something towards it. Now and it's funny because when we built this pyramid, it's called the pyramid of incremental progress. I do that literally every time I say it now because it seems magic. But when you've built up to that incremental progress, and all of that is put in place, you built like Keith Cunningham taught us, you're building a machine that creates cash. End of sentence, right? What do you want that business that's creating cash? Like, I love people. So I built my business inside of it to take really great care of people, gamifying it, right? Making sure that those people were taken care of. I love our customer base, right? For the people that do business with us. Everything that I've done for the last 20 years of my life has been referral based, right? We built a consulting company up to $50 million with referrals, no marketing, no advertising. Having conversations like this, me stepping on business stages and talking about this stuff all over the place, and our radically satisfied client base. That's how we did it.
Now, what do you see are some of the top areas of focus that business owners need to be looking at now at the end of 2020, after this really unique I don't want to call it unique because it has happened before, but just, I would say, rare time, where it's just like unique business environment, what do they need to be looking at now to not just survive the rest of 2020 and 21, but to thrive in it?
Yeah.
What are like the top let's say like top three?
It's going to sound a bit repetitive, right?
It's okay.
Systemize and processize your sales and marketing. Make sure that your operations are dialed into customer, so that the end result of everything that you built is creating a referral, which means you have a delighted client base, right?
Right.
Get to know your numbers and then start to get, your repetitive activities that are delighting the customers. Get those baked in for repetitiveness, because here's what's coming. This is here's Jason's prognostication, which has been spot on all of 2020. All right. 2021 is going to be the biggest growth boom, as I said, was coming this year. Next year is even going to be bigger. for small to mid-sized company startups. You're going to have a lot of big companies that are going to have mid-level. Your competition is going to get higher, right? And your amount of revenue that's going to be generated, our business, the business environment in this country is going to light up even higher than it has been. And you're going to find it tough to find employees. You're going to find it tough to compete for customer base if you're doing what you did last year. So now is the time, and I've been saying it, by the way, since February. Now is the time for you to retool your business to actually scale, right? So learn those fundamentals. We have some tools that we can offer at Anton J. The reason why I know a lot of this is because our customers, our business has more than tripled during the pandemic and the downturn. Because smart people know if I've got a little bit of downtime, I'm going to use it for when this snaps back. And you're going to see numbers coming up here in this third quarter that our GDP, obviously after a record dip, is going to have a record recovery. And then I think we're going to pick right back up. I think we're going to see some infrastructure investment, no matter who wins it doesn't really matter, who wins in the White House. I think you're going to see infrastructure. That's going to make the wages higher. That's going to put the disposable dollar of the American at a much higher level than it has been historically. And people are going to be wanting to start their own companies and their own businesses and have their destiny in their own hands. And you need to be ready for the competition. You need to be ready with your small business. You need to understand that we're playing Moneyball. If you haven't watched the movie Moneyball, understand that there is a new way to play the game of business. And if you don't know it, you're going to be left behind.
Fascinating episode. This is like really fantastic. Jam-packed. So we have just in final hug. Let's see, what's your mug say there?
Don't get on me for the femininity of it. It's my girl.
That's okay. That's awesome. That's like mad. It's like big, man.
I love big mugs. She usually used to have these little teacup size things, and I'm like, I mean, even with my pinky, this thing is like 2 sips. So she thought she was being a smart aleck and got these bowl size things. I love them.
That's perfect. So we have a tradition here on Inside the Walls. We have wisdom on the wall, words that you live by, mantras, something that drives you in your business and or your personal life, every day when you're moving forward. It's just, what would that be for you?
So for me, it's knowing, look, everybody's life has to have meaning to it, right? Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, right? 101 has to have meaning. The meaning that I have given my life is that my businesses and my business expertise can be used as a tool by God, by charities, and used as skill sets to be able to ease suffering, right? Everybody thinks that we're going to cure this and cure that, and we're going to end this and we're going to end that. Look at our human nature is that suffering is part of it. And for us to ease the unnecessary suffering of real victims, right? We live in a society where victimhood is rewarded, no matter, people are mad at me because they're prejudiced against bald-headed people, whatever. We've made up all kinds of things for that, right? But you're just in denial, bro.
I'm getting there, man. I'm getting
there. It's not a receding hairline. It's a protruding forehead, right? It's a solar panel for a love machine. That's the one that I really love. Yeah. So, but at the end of the day, like your meaning, and I've tried to retire a couple of times, was miserable. When I figured out I don't want to retire, I want to work hard for the rest of my life for the right reasons. And if I can help good people make more money, then they're going to help charities, and they're going to help those charities are going to learn business skill sets and tools, and they're going to be resourced. And when it's $3,600 for us to per little girl or little boy that we rescue, the more $3,600 that I can stack up. Yes, I do put on the bulletproof stuff and go in and get the kids myself, but I also have this tool when I'm not doing that to be able to help people like that are watching this show really make a lot more money so that they can have an impact. Doesn't have to be the things I'm passionate about, but your life has to have meaning. And for me, it is boiled down to, after lots of failures and lots of recoveries and lots of attempts at retirement is to know and understand that my passion, my energy comes from serving, and that serving is people that have had choice ripped out of their life, and they need people like us to show up. That you saw in the intro video. I love that they put that in there, philanthropreneur, and that is using your business skill sets to be able to ease suffering in the world. And I think the more that you do that, the more that you can give and serve without any expectation of anything coming back to you, the more that you gain that peace that I think that people think they can buy with $1. There's no amount of money that buys peace. It's a decision.
Jason Sisneros, Anton J. Global, thank you for being on this week. And definitely appreciate that, and hope everybody got a lot of info, because I know that there's just so much that we're going to be breaking up over the next week or two. And with that,
thanks for having me on, brother, and thanks for the show that you do. You're adding value in a time where people really, really need it, and you're bringing on people who are sharing, which is a great thing for people to understand about you and about the outcome in this world. Is that people that know stuff are really, really happy to share it with you when you ask and when you're going to do something with that information. So great job.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Next week, we'll probably, I would say probably be taking off for the election, although, there's a possibility I might do a special episode during that of a different flavor. We'll see. Ooh. That being said, everybody, thank you for coming on and enjoying this with us, and have a great afternoon.